Well, joining us now is defence editor at the Evening Standard and friend of the programme, may I add, Robert Fox. Very good to see you this morning, Robert. So, Israel telling everyone in North Gaza, around 1.1 million people, to relocate to the south of the Strip. We are expecting an aerial bombardment or a ground offensive to start very soon. What do you expect Israel's next move to be?
Well, whatever it is, it's going to be extremely difficult because what they're about to undertake is, as you suggest, it seems a ground operation, and these are very, very difficult to do at the best of times. And you have to realize, with its reservists and its national service, that Israel is only a partly professional army. The IDF, the Israeli Defense Forces, that it's largely a citizen army, and you need highly trained troops to do street fighting, particularly the street fighting for which the Hamas militias, the fighters, will be prepared. I think we're still quite a way off. By that, I don't think I would be very surprised if the ground operation itself begins tomorrow morning, it being the Sabbath, the Shabbat. I haven't seen, it's very selective, my viewing, of professional formations being organized at the front, which is what you would do if you're going to make a ground incursion. They have to be armored, they have to be tooled up, and you would have your more professional troops in these forming up positions.
Robert, it is so fascinating thinking of this region as a whole. It's not just, of course, Gaza in the south where there have been rockets firing, but also in the north as well with Hezbollah. And the age-old adage is, in warfare, you never want a war on two fronts. Is this what Israel is now facing?
Well, I think Israel's known that it's had this really for quite some time, particularly when both Hezbollah, but particularly Hamas and Islamic Jihad, which can be even more crude and violent, although nothing can be as bad and as totally unexpected as the attacks on the settlements just east of Gaza a weekend ago. But Israel has always had this difficulty of how to live with the neighbors and how to live with the Arabs within its own community. The communities, by the way, are in parity now. If you take Greater Israel, including the occupied West Bank, which we've been talking about, plus Gaza, there are roughly 7 million Arabs, nearly 2 million of them actually have Israeli citizenship within Israel, 2 million in Gaza, 3 million on the West Bank, and 7 million Israeli Jews. It's a very, very delicate balance. And this, I think, is a crisis a lot of people have known is going to be coming for a very long time. And part of the thing that worries me about this very high-flown rhetoric, Chaps was indulging in it this morning, the broadcast that they will wipe out Hamas. Well, the guts and power and brains of Hamas is quite clearly, a lot of it is just not in Gaza. It's in the Gulf. This is where they get the money trees working. This is where they have access to fantastic advanced weapons, really quite surprisingly so. It's part of the huge black market that has been accelerated around the Ukrainian armament, by the way, and where they get support and advice, and of course, you know where from. Indirectly from Iran through Hezbollah, in Lebanon, where it has participated in government as well, which makes it more complicated, and from Iran itself.
Robert, as we speak to you now, we can see live pictures in Haifa in Israel where a funeral is taking place for a person who was killed at the weekend with those attacks from Hamas. Tell us a little bit about what the Israelis are going to face now in their self-defense going into Gaza. They want to kill those terrorists. They want to take them out. But Hamas, they don't wear uniforms, do they? So how will the Israelis be able to distinguish between a member of Hamas and a civilian? And we've also got the issue of those 140 or so hostages. How will they be able to get to those hostages with those movements of civilians down south into Gaza?
I only have a three-word answer for you, I'm afraid, Ellie. With great difficulty. because Hamas knows how to conceal itself among the population, despite this very, very stark warning about getting out of the north of Gaza. As the UN has pointed out, and they're not totally party-free on this, on one side, it's going to be very difficult for these people to move out when there's such limited transportation. They're running out of fuel, they're running out of food. And it's going to be terribly difficult, this fight among the population. And I think if it gets really tough, I think it's going to be a terrible shock for Israel. I think that that's part of the consideration as to why Biden and Blinken are standing by. By the way, I wanted to ask your correspondent who said we shouldn't be sending aid to Israel and what's the Royal Navy doing there. I mean, we do have to make a very direct point there, is Britain has an interest because there are many Anglo-Israeli citizens that have dual citizenship. And I won't put it any finer than this because I think it could be dangerous. I think we have a very direct interest in some of the hostages.
Well, that's an answer to Andy, who wrote in to ask a question of the programme about sending aid to Israel. So I'm very glad that you've been able to answer that question from our viewer. Robert Fox, thank you so much for your expertise in this area. It's absolutely invaluable at a time like this, and we really appreciate your time.